We spend nearly 2 decades in school learning how to solve equations, memorize formulas, and analyze systems. We learn mathematics, physics, economics, accountancy. But almost no one teaches us the most important things in life. No one really teaches us how to live, how to love everyone, how to deal with anger, how to face fear, how to remain calm when life collapses around us, how to be courageous when doing the right thing costs us something. Instead, most of our upbringing is focused on physical sustenance and the pursuit of things that are fleeting. We are trained to survive in the world, but not necessarily to understand ourselves within it. You go to school, you study for years, you graduate, then suddenly you are thrown into the deep waters of life and expected to figure everything out on your own. How to build meaningful relationships, how to handle rejection, how to resist envy and resentment, how to manage your desires, how not to become a victim of anger, passions, and impulses. And many people spend their entire lives trying to figure out these things that were never taught. But thousands of years ago, philosophers recognized this problem, and they dedicated their lives to answering one central question. What does it mean to live well? Philosophy is often misunderstood. People think it is abstract, theoretical, disconnected from real life. But originally, philosophy was not meant to be an academic subject. It was meant to be a way of living. The ancient philosophers believed philosophy was a practical guide to building character. They asked questions like, how should a person respond to suffering? What should we fear? What should we desire? What kind of person should we strive to become? And their conclusion was simple, but powerful. A meaningful life is built not on possessions, status, or wealth, but on virtue. Not studying virtue, but embodying it as a way of life. The first virtue is kindness. True kindness forbids arrogance and cruelty toward others. It reminds us that every person we meet is fighting battles we cannot see. Kindness is not weakness. It is strength guided by compassion. It shows itself not just in grand gestures, but in everyday interactions. The way we speak to strangers. The way we respond when someone makes a mistake. The way we treat people without expecting anything in return. A truly kind person is loving toward others not only in actions but also in words and in thought. Then there is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear control your actions. Fear tells us to stay silent when we should speak. Fear tells us to run when we should stand firm. Fear tells us to protect ourselves at the expense of what is right. Courage rejects these commands. Everything that frightens us must be met with a certain defiance. Not recklessness, but a quiet determination to do what is right despite fear. The courageous person chooses to do the opposite of whatever fear commands when fear is trying to betray their values. Another virtue that philosophy praises is loyalty. Loyalty is the refusal to abandon those who trust you. It is easy to remain loyal when everything is going well. But true loyalty is tested in moments of pressure. When standing by someone costs you something. When you could betray them for personal gain. The loyal person refuses. Their character cannot be bought. Let them threaten you. Let them cut you. Let them destroy your reputation. You will never betray your own. Perhaps one of the most important virtues is self-control. Human beings are creatures of desire. We want comfort, pleasure, recognition, approval. But without self-control, our desires can dominate us. Philosophers believed a wise person must learn to command their pleasures rather than be commanded by them. Some pleasures should be rejected entirely. Others should simply be kept within healthy limits. Because the true limit of desire is simple. Take what you need, not what you endlessly want. The moment our desires rule us, we lose our freedom. Self-control restores that freedom. Alongside these virtues are others that quietly shape a powerful character. honesty, the commitment to truth, even when lying would be easier. Moderation, knowing when enough is enough. Temperance, the ability to restrain excess. Clemency, the strength to forgive when punishment would be easy. The virtue of justice reminds us to treat people fairly, to respect their dignity, and to give each person what is due to them. A just person does not exploit others for advantage, even when they have the power to do so. The virtue of humility protects us from arrogance. It reminds us that no matter how much we learn, there is always more we do not know. The humble person remains open to correction, growth, and truth. The virtue of patience teaches us to endure delays, frustrations, and difficulties without surrendering to anger or despair. Life rarely moves at the speed we want, and patience allows us to remain steady through that uncertainty. The virtue of gratitude shifts our attention from what we lack to what we already possess. Instead of living in constant dissatisfaction, the grateful person recognizes the quiet abundance that already exists in their life. The virtue of resilience gives us the strength to rise again after hardship. Failure, loss, and disappointment are inevitable, but resilience allows us to stand back up and continue forward. The virtue of integrity ensures that our words, beliefs, and actions remain aligned. The person of integrity does what is right even when no one is watching. The virtue of compassion deepens kindness into action. It is the willingness to recognize the suffering of others and respond with understanding rather than indifference. The virtue of discipline strengthens the will. It allows a person to continue doing what is right long after motivation fades. The virtue of forgiveness frees the heart from resentment. It prevents anger and bitterness from taking permanent residence within us. And prudence, the quiet virtue of good judgment, helps us make wise decisions by considering the long-term consequences of our actions rather than simply reacting in the moment. Together, these virtues shape a life guided not by impulse, but by wisdom and character. When practiced consistently, these virtues slowly transform a person. They cultivate wisdom, not the kind of wisdom found in books, but the kind that appears in decisions, actions, and character. Society often measures success in a very different way. We are encouraged to pursue wealth, reputation, possessions, status, and there is nothing inherently wrong with these things. But there is one problem. They are never truly ours. Wealth can disappear. Reputation can change overnight. Possessions can be taken away. History is filled with people who had everything one day and lost it the next. The philosopher understood this long ago. External things are unstable. They belong to fortune. But there are some things that cannot be taken away from you. Your character, your wisdom, your integrity, your heart, your mind, your soul. When you cultivate virtue, you enrich these inner possessions. And unlike wealth or status, these cannot be stolen by circumstance. They remain with you in wealth, in poverty, in obscurity, in hardship. They remain with you until the very end. So perhaps the most important education in life is not the one we receive in classrooms. It is the one we build within ourselves. The quiet discipline of shaping our character. The daily effort to become kinder, braver, more honest, more self-controlled, more loyal. Because in the end, a life well lived is not measured by what we owned, but by who we became. And that is something no one can ever take away from you.